We are making flourless chocolate brownies for my cookbook, Change Made Easy, and we're going all the way with the fudge frosting today, so you don't want to miss it. I'm replacing the grain with almond meal or almond flour, whichever one you have. Almond meal is cheaper, so I usually buy that one, or I buy almond flour and mix the two. And it's dairy-free, soy-free, has a little bit of sugar in this one. I normally do not use sugar, but I'm gonna splurge with some chocolate chips today. This is not gonna be your 99-cent boxed mix though. So this is kind of for a special occasion. But what's in that box, sure, you save a lot of money, but you're not gonna nourish any part of your body. So with this, at least there's no guilt in being able to nourish the cells of your body while you're eating a brownie. We're replacing the butter with nothing. We're replacing the oil with water. And the eggs we're replacing with some flaxseed, ground flaxseed. And I'm replacing most of the sugar with dates. So let's get started. So I'm gonna start with pitting 20 of these medjool dates. To take out the pit, you just rip it in half, remove the pit, and then this is gonna go right into the food processor. So I'm gonna work on pitting 20 of these. It really doesn't take long at all. You just throw it right in the food processor, have a trash handy for the pits, and while I'm doing this, I'm going to be heating up 1 1/4 cups of water. So it'll be hot for me in my kettle. 20 dates is probably an equivalent to about a whole cup of sugar. And so what we're gonna do next is add in the hot water. So it's 1 1/4 cups of hot water we're going to put into the food processor, and it'll be really easy to process the dates. The water I added was pretty hot, so I'm gonna throw a towel over the food processor so it doesn't leak out and burn me. Might have to scrape down the sides of your food processor a little bit to get them all blended up. It looks a little bit chunky, but that's how we're gonna go from there. Okay, and to the date mixture, I'm going to add in 1 cup of almond flour or almond meal, whichever you have. Now, a true baker would sift this, but I'm just gonna skip the step and dump it right in the food processor. And then we're gonna add 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of baking soda. Baking powder has cornstarch in it, so there's a grain in there, so you don't wanna use that. And a tablespoon of ground flaxseed is gonna go in there. And then we're just gonna give it a mix it all in there. You're gonna wanna put it on the pulse setting multiple times until it's incorporated in. So I normally don't use sugar, but I'm going to use 1/2 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. These are sweetened with cane sugar because I try to avoid regular sugar as much as possible because they're genetically modified. I'm just gonna combine the chocolate chips with the rest of the ingredients, and I have an 8x8 pan here. We're gonna spray it. You could use coconut oil if you had on hand to grease the pan. You could also use a avocado oil spray, a coconut oil spray. You wanna try to avoid soy. Wow, look at that fudginess. We're going to put this into the pan and we're gonna bake it at 350 degrees for 35 minutes. All right, this is going in the oven. If you wanna lick the bowl, go ahead and do it. There's nothing in there that could make you sick. All right, my brownies are baking, and if you thought that was the fun part, well, you have to make my fudge frosting. So I created this recipe when all of those little can jars of frosting were full of trans fat. This was before the FDA was requiring everybody to phase out the trans fats that we know is the worst thing for our heart. And so I had to create my own. I also wasn't happy with the soy that was in there because that's genetically modified, not in a helpful way. So I wanted to create my own, and this is quite amazing. So we're gonna use dates. We're also gonna splurge with the chocolate chips again. So we're going to get a saucepan and we're gonna pit 10 dates and stick them in here. Okay, and into the saucepan, I am going to add 1/2 can of coconut milk. You can even use light coconut milk if you'd like. And a tablespoon of pure maple syrup is going into our pan. And what we're gonna do is boil it for 6 minutes. So while that's coming to a boil, I'm going to wash out my food processor bowl because I am gonna need it again for this fudge frosting. Once your dates are done boiling, you're gonna take it off the heat and add in your vanilla. You don't wanna boil vanilla because it burns pretty quickly and it kind of gets bitter. A teaspoon of pure vanilla extract is gonna go into our date mixture. A 1/4 cup of cocoa powder is gonna go into our pot. And a 1/4 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips are going into the pot too. The last thing that goes in there is a 1/2 teaspoon of an instant coffee. I just happen to have Starbucks on hand. Use whatever you have, that's easy. It's gonna be a 1/2 teaspoon. Coffee really brings out the flavor of chocolate. Just a little though. Okay, so I know you're gonna have 1/2 packet of coffee left over and 1/2 can of coconut milk. What are you gonna do with it? I'll show you what you can do with the leftovers. Okay, so all of our ingredients are in here and I am just going to pour it into my food processor. It's hot, be careful. I'm gonna grab that towel again and you're just gonna pulse it until combined, then you can take the towel off. So you're gonna keep the machine on until it becomes nice and glossy, very smooth. This is what it's gonna look like. You're just gonna pour it into a bowl and we still have to wait for our brownies to cook and cool before we can add this to the top. And this is pretty hot too, so it's gonna have to cool off. And it should get a little bit thicker as it cools. The brownies are still baking. I'm gonna refrigerate my fudge frosting. So when you're left with 1/2 can, let me show you how to make a great creamer for coffee, because we have some coffee left over too, right? So I'm gonna pour the rest of this into the pot and then I'm gonna add 1 can full of whatever non-dairy milk you like. I always use almond milk, unsweetened. It's gotta be unsweetened. We're gonna add a little bit of maple syrup. So we're gonna fill up the can and pour it in there, and then we're also going to need some almond extract and vanilla extract. A teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla really helps cut through the coconutty flavor that's pretty strong. It's still gonna be a coconut creamer though, so if you like coconut, you'll love this. So it's gonna be 1/8 teaspoon of almond extract. And add 2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup. So then you're just gonna whisk it around. If you wanted to heat it up a little bit for a warm creamer, you may do that. It will be okay, just don't let it boil. So here's a great creamer you can use in coffee or tea, and coconut milk doesn't last that long once it's out of the can, so I would try to use it up within 5 days. Brownies just came out, looking good. Now these are gonna have to cool. These would be amazing as they are. You do not need to add the fudge frosting, but I'm just gonna go all out today and make it extra special. I'm not a fan of where you have to wait for a recipe before you can eat it, especially when it comes to chocolate. I just want to eat it up right away. Well, this is worth the wait, but you could make the brownies the day before so they're already cool for you and you could add the frosting right away. But then there's that risk you won't have any brownies left. Okay, these brownies are ready to be frosted. So I got my brownies and my frosting, and I'm just gonna dump it on and smear it around with a spatula. Fudge frosted brownies. I got my glass of my unsweetened almond milk to go along with it. I mean, if you're gonna eat a brownie, it might as well be good for you too. Ooh-wee, that is chocolatey. My kind of brownie. Cheers.